Welcome. Greetings, everyone. Tonight we're going to talk about mothers. I think it's fitting to talk about Black moms today since it's Mother's Day. And perhaps you can share your experience of what it was like growing up with your Black mother. I'm not going to wait for anyone else to join me. If you want to say hello, let me know who is here with me, then you're welcome to do that. But I wanted to have this very important conversation today, and hopefully I can get some participation. Question is, are Black mothers getting a bad rap? All the things that we're hearing about Black moms recently, it just seems as if the social media has become this platform that is allowing children to come forward and to share their stories. But truthfully speaking, I have mixed feelings about some of the things I hear and some of the things that I'm seeing. And I think there's a sort of danger zone if you don't understand what this could do to women if you're not careful in sort of differentiating that the argument that women are human beings on a whole. We have the potential to make mistakes. And we're not perfect. Being a mother, no one is born with a manual. No child, I mean, is born with a manual. And so, as parents, as moms, we have to try to dive deep to find ways how to raise these children. If you would agree, say yes. No one is born with a manual. And from what I'm seeing recently, and I don't want to say kids shouldn't come forward and talk about their experience with their moms, but it's a little bit scary what I'm seeing. So I have a few questions here that I'm going to put out there. I'm going to try to answer some of the questions, and I'm going to leave it for you, those of you that are here now, or those who watch this video later on, to answer. One of the first questions I have is, which was the title, Are Black Mothers Getting a Bad Rap? Because when we are hearing the stories and seeing these things that happen in homes, oftentimes it's the women that are being blamed, rightfully so in some cases. But let's look at how Black women parent or discipline their kids from the past. I've shared my own experience in the past to say, when I was growing up, I never had anyone say, I love you. And I think you need to hear that. But at the same time, if the parents never had, if the mom never had anyone tell her that, I love you, and she doesn't tell you because she doesn't know any better, should she be judged harshly? Or should you, as a child that grows up now and have children of your own, should you tell your mom, I love you, and hug her? Is it okay for us as children to show our parents the way? I think we can. We can show our parents how we're parenting our kids and doing the things that they never did to us without them being judged too harshly. Are Black moms getting a bad rap, or are they as terrible as we're seeing it? And what is behind this new trend? Because as a mom, now I am terrified to even discipline my kid, because if I speak loudly, there's a possibility that down the road I could hear that I was abusive because I yelled at my kid. And I don't really believe in corporal punishment. I don't really believe in hitting a kid. But those parents who did it, and you have kids coming out and saying, my mom, let's talk about mom alone today. My mom slapped me when I was a kid, and it was for the better. Do you think that when the parents used to use that type of punishment, and first of all, where did they get it from? Don't make it seem as if Black women hitting their kids just came from their own practice. It's something that was introduced to them when they were growing up, And it comes way back from the colonial time, corporal punishment. It used to be in the schools. It's not Black people that created this thing. Okay. So are Black women more cruel than other moms when it comes to discipline? My answer is no. My answer is Black women are more vocal, and a lot of Black moms, they don't pretend. Even if they're in public, they will talk to their kids. They will discipline the kids the way they would at home. Whereas other moms do the same thing, but they're more secretive with it. They will more than likely do the things that the Black mom do in public in private. But of course, there are also situations where in certain culture, they don't punish their kids by hitting, they just talk. Their parenting styles are different, one reason or the other. And so you'll have a child will swear up and down to the mom, and the mom would be there pleading. Whereas a Black woman, she's not, for the most part, is not going to do that. Should a Black woman's strategy of being real disciplined, yelling or hitting a kid, be altogether abandoned? The question is, are they more cruel than other moms? Okay, answer that question. Yeah, let's go to Jamaican moms now. Can Jamaican mom or are Jamaican moms doing enough to protect their kids? Are Jamaican moms doing enough to protect their kids? And I'm going to share a story. A few years back, I went to Jamaica to visit, and some kids came to see me. It was just, I'd say, the sun was just going down, and the girl came by to see me, and I was very happy to see her, but she was around 8 years old, and she also brought her baby sister. And when she was ready to go home, she just said bye to me, and she was stepping out, and I said, well, who's here to get you? And she says, oh, I'm going by myself. And I was a bit taken aback because it was about 10 minutes from where I was staying that the kid came. And I always thought that enough was not being done to protect these little girls, even in the absence of pedophiles and the absence of other dangerous things that can happen with kids being out late by themselves at night. I always thought that we could do a little bit more. I also noticed in the community where I came from that you'll see very small kids going to the shops. I mean, as small as 3 years old going to the shops to buy something for their parents. And again, I had a problem with that. But I didn't want to judge a society because you don't notice these things when you live there until you leave, until you go to another culture where kids are more protected. And so, should we just be harsh and expect these parents to change right away? Or should we sort of introduce them to something new? Encourage them to be more cautious. Now, I don't think in Jamaica, for example, you should have to tell people to be more cautious because of what's happening to kids. But in the past, I thought, I don't want to bring what I know from North America to Jamaica to say, this is the standard, this is how other people should live. Okay, so I do think that women can do more to protect their kids. It's the climate that they're living in Jamaica right now. Moms are supposed to take the kids to school. It's very important. I think it's difficult when you're struggling and you find a job, but nothing is more important than the children. You're trying to earn a living to take care of these children. So if you're going to work and you're going to leave them unsafe, well, what's the point in working, kind of thing. So yes, they do need more protection. Now, in the past, again, too, moms used to be able to rely on their neighbor, whether it was male or female, to watch their kids. And I remember my situation raising my daughters and having to work and go to school. I had to rely on other folks to help me. And I often relied on other women who lived with men. Nowadays, I don't think I'd be able to allow a female to pick up my child, or she's running behind, because that's happened to me before. She's running behind, calls me at my job and said, is it okay for my husband to pick up your daughters until I get there so that they're not late from being picked up from daycare? And at the time, I gave them permission because this man was Jamaican. He was my neighbor. And they were only going to have them for half an hour before I get home. Now I wouldn't do it. But back then, it was really community. We depended on each other. But now we're hearing, You can't trust even the girl's father. So for women who migrate, for example, are we saying that we can't leave our girls with their dads back home because we are living in fear? Do you get where I'm going with this? The family unit is broken, I know, but are we supposed to live in a climate where now we don't trust the father of our children? And, yes, we don't trust the neighbor because we don't know them. But are we getting to the place now where the Black mothers, are taking the brunt of these accusations? I'm going to pause it there for now. I need people to answer these questions for me in the comment section. When this live is over, there'll be opportunity to put your comments here for me. So are they doing enough to protect their kids? Are Black mothers to be blamed for men abusing our children? I think that ties in with the question above. Are Black mothers to be blamed for what men are doing to children? I don't think so. And when we talk about these Jamaican moms and these Black moms, we're generalizing. People are generalizing. When I look at social media now and I see people coming out and saying, my mom knew this was happening to me and she did nothing to protect me. And when you listen to them closely, the moms say, I didn't know. Is it possible that because a child is being threatened or the child got threatened in the past, not to tell the parents that this could actually happen and she doesn't know? I don't know. I'm in the middle of this thing. It's almost, I'm very cynical about this whole new trend that is happening with moms, Black moms, Jamaican moms really being presented like these monsters. A few. Are you trying to tell me that all these women in Jamaica are so horrible? That all these kids, and I mean, you hear stories about, yeah, my mom used to beat me, and my mom beat me with the wires, and my mom beat me with, electrical wires and tie me up and do me these things. Is this a general thing? Because that was not my experience. And I really didn't know anyone who was going through those kinds of abuse. And I'm not saying those individuals shouldn't be talking about those abuse, but you as a mom, where is your feeling? And if you had to do things over again, how different would you do it? And if these moms that did some of these things, which I think was done in frustration, to be honest, I think a lot of these parents have been very frustrated and took their frustration out on their children. And if they had to do it over again, if they had the opportunities that you and I have now, probably wouldn't do those things. Okay, so Ferguson, you're saying most are to be blamed for bringing men in the house. Very, very good point. So here is the question I have for you, Ferguson. Are you saying that a woman who has children, who finds herself divorced or single, should not bring any man in her household? Because that's a very good topic. And I am a mom. I was married. I got divorced. I stayed on my own for 10 years after my divorce, but I did eventually bring in a man in my house. So are you saying that I was a bad mom for doing that? Because how do you know? Now you have to try to vet these men, but you don't always know. You're not always going to know who these people are. People are very good at pretending. So please tell me what you mean, Ferguson, about bringing men in the house. Because, of course, you have some women where there's a revolving door. Men are always coming in and out that household. Because a lot of times these women get very desperate. They're looking for someone. They're looking for a father figure. And they're thinking that if I bring a next man in my life and get married and have more children, these kids will have a father. And I have heard so many stories of women. Yes, I have heard so many stories up to recently of a woman marrying someone from Jamaica and bringing the man here, and the father molested the daughter. These things are also happening here. And it's not just happening in Black families, it's a universal thing. But now, when you hear it, it just makes it seem like Black mothers are more guilty. Okay, so every child that gets abused, at the end of the day, are you saying that is the moms that should be blamed? Wow, that's a huge burden to carry. Um, with all that I'm seeing now and all the negative energy that is surrounding Black families now, especially women in Jamaica, again, I am very happy in my marriage, but I think I'd be afraid. I'd be more afraid to take a chance because it's just a burden to carry. When I hear all these girls accusing their moms of all these terrible things, it would scare me. I wouldn't want to be blamed for these things. I think fear is not a good thing, but I think when you hear these negative things about Black moms, you probably would think twice about, getting married and, bringing in a new partner into your household. Number 5, are we only righteous when it comes to other people's children? So the question is, as Black women and Black moms, we hear a lot of judgment, a lot of accusation towards other women. Black women shouldn't have to remain single. Exactly. That's that, because what I'm hearing is I hear a lot of self-righteousness with a lot of people who don't even have kids and who've never even been married and who are not even interested in man-woman relationship, casting judgment on other women who are in these relationships. And it's very hypocritical because I think no woman, nobody would say a man should stay single if his wife dies or if he ends up having a divorce. No one. And he's a parent too. And if he's a good parent, he's going to be actively involved in his children's life. So does that mean that once you are not together with the father or the mother of your children, you should stay single? All one can do is try and get to know an next person as best as she can. Pray and slowly allow the man to be around her children. That's true. But remember, it's not sometimes the same day or the same month or the same year. Sometimes it's years later that individuals not necessarily show their true colors, but are tempted or, do things you wouldn't expect them to do. Yeah, the first priority is raising your kids. I have a 15-year-old son, and I would not bring a man in until he's at least gone off to college. No harm in waiting. There's no harm in waiting. Absolutely not. But what if, and I have girls, so I should probably be more cautious than some other women. I have daughters. Well, my older daughter wasn't home when I joined household with my partner, but my other child was 11 years old. And I knew other women who said that too, who said that I'm not going to get married until my children move out. And I would never judge them. I wouldn't judge them. But I think if a woman makes a choice to start over and she's young enough to have more children, if she had no children with her previous husband, I know people would approve of that. But what if she had a child and she wanted another family? It's not her fault that her marriage ended or her family broke apart. Why should she stay alone because she's fearful that she's going to be judged? Of course, she has to do her homework and get her time to know this person. But even when you get to know somebody, you don't know them altogether. Men who behave that way need healing. It's not our fault. We're blamed for so much, and it's not fair to carry that burden. That's what I'm saying, Miss Baker. This thing that I'm seeing now, it's really frightening. And I don't think, and most of the people that are talking this way about Black moms, it's really Black folks that are doing it. It's really women who are, all of a sudden saying these horrible things about mom. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the kids that are talking about themselves getting abused from parents shouldn't come forward. But I'm thinking, you as the person who has not experienced the abuse from your mother, or has not experienced any of the things that these kids have gone through, I think you should be a healer. You should be someone here trying to heal it. No matter how horrible the mom is, you as an individual can decide that I don't want to have a relationship with that mom anymore. She's toxic, but I don't think I should tell you not to have a relationship with your mom. I have a problem with it. And so when you make these general statements about how horrible these moms are, where is that middle ground to say peace, because we're broken as a people already. We're already broken as a people, and we all make mistakes. And some of these people make some mistakes that they regret. They regret, and if they had the chance to do it over, they wouldn't do it. I'm not talking about parents who have their kids and, a repeat cycle. They have 10 kids and the story is the same. Yeah, follow your intuition. Of course. Okay, the question was, are we only righteous when it comes to other people's children? So I see conversations now where moms, women who have children too, are, saying this one is wicked, this woman is evil, this woman has done this thing, this woman has invited other persons to abuse her kids. But when you look at their story, it's no different. They brought men into their lives that abused their children. Their kids also saw men beating them or abusing them or doing things that would set a bad example for a girl. But these same moms did this, and then you see them turn around and judging the other moms. Some moms also see the bad in other people's children, but they don't see it in theirs. They judge somebody, because I know people whose kids are involved in, bullying activities, whose children have done what other men are accused of doing right now, and they protect their kids. So the question that was following that one is, are we only righteous when it comes to other people's children? So we are looking out for other folks' children and we're not defending our own. And how prepared are you as a mother to hand your son over to prosecution? So you have women again who knows that their children are involved in crime or criminal activities, and they shield them and they protect them, right? Or they know that their boys are getting involved with underage girls, because in Jamaica you see that a lot. So in the Gallus, with the Gallus mentality that they have there, a woman sees her son, he has a girlfriend that's probably his age, let's say he's 16, and he has a 16-year-old girlfriend, but he also brings 13 and 12-year-old girls to the house, and she knows, and she doesn't say anything about it. And if she saw her 18 or 20-year-old son bring home a girl who's 13 to the household, would she prosecute her own son? Would she call the police? You see, it's so easy to judge the other situation when you're not in it. Okay. Why, Ferguson? Why did you hand him over to the authorities? And I think I would, to be honest with you. I remember when my daughter was about, my second child was maybe 6 or 7 years old, 7 years old. They always have book fair at their school. And she took 2 books from the book fair, hid it in her bag, and wrote it down in her diary. And her sister found it and told me about it, and I punished her at home. But I also called the school and told the school she stole the books. She was going to return them the next day, but that was not enough, that they should find some way how to discipline her for what she had done. And they made her work in the library for 1 year. Now she's an avid reader. She's a very, she's one of those individuals who have to have a book. She always has to. So that was her punishment. Okay. So a lot of people are saying that they would turn their kid into the authorities. But it's easier said than done. If you've already done it, you know for sure that you would. Well, I would too. I definitely would. If my child, no, if my kid stole a candy, I was not gonna call the police, but I think I probably would take her to the police station and have someone talk to her about stealing. And how many parents are prepared to hand their kids out? So if you're not prepared to hand your kid over to the authorities, then anything that they do that is bad, you are guilty also, because if you know and you hide it, you've sent them a message that, these things are okay with you. Yes. So many moms see a guy beating up his girlfriend, they'll tell him to stop, but they don't tell the girl to leave. Or they would never call the police to report him. And I don't think it's just Black moms. It's just one of those sticky situations, to be honest with you. And what I'm saying is, those folks who need healing, who comes out and need healing, I'm glad they're able to tell their stories. But at the same time, it makes me very nervous to see it's becoming, it's happening so often. And the folks who are listening to these stories are not trying to bridge a gap. They're not trying to, encourage these folks to heal themselves. I have children of my own, and I think if we had issues and it was out there, people are going to talk about our problems that's out there if we put it out there. But I would hope that I'd find some other parents or some individuals to come and say, okay, this is something that you need to sit down and talk about. You guys need to go for counseling or whatever, instead of just judging a situation, because some of these kids are lying. Not everybody who comes out and say they're abused is telling the truth. And as far as statute of limitation goes, I heard someone saying that the statute of limitation, as far as abuse and especially sexual abuse goes, there is no limit on that. And I'm very glad for that. But at the same time, I'm saying some of these folks that are saying, yeah, come out and speak and tell your stories and, talk about abuse that you've had in your life. Make sure that someone doesn't come forward and tell a lie on you 20 years from now. And make sure the child that you're raising, that you're doing all the best you can to raise, doesn't come out later on and start saying you're this horrible parent because you were strict. I was very strict with my kids. And now that they're adults, they still say, oh, you didn't let me do this and you didn't let me do that, because I'm trying to protect those kids. I was trying to protect them. But these kids could still come around and find a way to say that what I had done was something that was terrible because their other friends had more freedom. Do you see where I'm going with this? I think Black moms have a lot to deal with. Miss Baker says, I have had to search out elders and even gotten someone to dress in a police costume to make my son afraid of stealing when he took candies from a store, and said that was dramatic, but I wanted him. Of course, it wasn't dramatic. You do what you have to do to protect your kids and to teach them that lesson. I would do the same. I did call the school, and the other parent whose child was involved with the same thing said she wasn't going to say anything to the school because we can't set the police on our kids. It's not about setting the police on the kids. It's trying to let them know how serious this is. And there are police officers who are willing to work with you, who will see that you want your kid to go the straight and narrow and will speak to your kids without any penalties. Okay. So question again, I'm going to ask those of you who are here, are Black moms getting a bad rap? Are they as terrible as we are hearing that in these days? Or do you feel that they were not able to do better parenting because they were not parented differently? Or should they not have to use that excuse anymore? Yeah, of course, Miss Baker. Simple thing, as simple as a candy. It's a candy now, and then later on it's some other small thing, and before you know it, they're robbing the bank. Is it just me? Are you saying, someone said to me, well, with the presence of social media, um, we're seeing more, and that more Jamaican parents are cruel, and it's only coming to the fore now because of social media? Or is this just another strategy to demonize the Black woman? Because I'm sure not all Jamaican women are cruel. I'm sure that even though it's common for people to beat their kids in Jamaica, there are women who don't beat kids. I grew up in a household where it was my biological mother, but she didn't beat us. There was no physical abuse towards us, and no verbal abuse either. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't neglect. My education was neglected in some ways, even though I went to school, but that's another story. Um, mm, Usually, these moms are doing the best that they can, and those who are extreme. And first of all, too, a lot of these moms that are raising kids on their own have mental health challenges. Challenges. So the extreme case where you see that one was beating the girl with the cutlass, no one can tell me that woman wasn't going through a mental breakdown that day. She literally lost it that day. Yeah, thanks. No, no, there was no physical or verbal abuse when I was growing up with my aunt at all. But I still have ill feelings in some way. So you can't win, to be honest with you, as a parent. You can't win. If you do, you're damn. If you don't, you're damn. Anyway, happy Mother's Day to everybody who's here. If you're a mom or if you are aunt or whatever, as I said earlier today, being a mom doesn't mean that you have to give birth to a child. As women, we're always looking after other people's children for the most part. We can't keep using how we were raised as an excuse for our bad parenting. Of course, but I'm saying a person who doesn't know better, okay, do you like there's some of these women who are doing these horrible things, who are bringing their kids, putting them out there to men. Um, that's what they're used to, that's what they know. So are habits easy to break? How would they change if they're stuck into some back bush and all they have are these old ways of thinking, and no one goes to them and tells them, except for the government now saying you're not supposed to beat your kids or you're not supposed to do these things? How would they know different? Don't you think these people, as they have been stuck in this behavior for so long, should now be given the opportunity? Parenting classes, how many of these people understand what they're doing is wrong? That's all they know. That's all they know. So it doesn't matter if you are exposed to other things and now this, because a lot of kids who were abused who didn't even know that they were abused. Even some of the kids who come forward and protect their parents and said, my mom or dad was wonderful. They never hurt us. But when you're in the same breath, they're saying, oh, my mom beat me with um, electrical wire, or my mom didn't give me any food for 3 days. That is abuse. And the kids themselves did not even know that until they go somewhere else and they see a different culture. Thank you, Miss Baker. They see a different culture, they see how different people behave or respond to whatever stress that they're going through. So we're not making excuses for people to say this is what they're used to, but I'm saying, how can they change that behavior without getting exposure to something that is different? Learned behavior is not an excuse, but that's how we grow, and that's all we do, I guess, automatically. Yes. And how do you break that pattern? That's the thing. How do you break the cycle? It's not just by looking at someone and judging them. Do you think that as a mom, if you see another woman abusing her kids or neglecting her kids, how do you approach the person? Because is it always better for the child to be removed from that environment? And in some cases, no question, kids being sexually abused and parents know about it. Even sometimes the moms don't know about it, but because they are not as protective as they ought to be, then they're going to have to learn. So the kid gets removed for certain things immediately. But what about a mom yelling? Now, yelling at your child is also verbal abuse. So where is the middle ground? As a mom now, how do you discipline your child? Do you say, go stand over there to your 16-year-old child, go stand over in the corner and stay quiet, or you're not getting your phone or your iPad? 16-year-old child now, do they have the same mentality as a child say 10, 15 years ago? And is it as are the kids listening to the parents now, even when they're beating them, even when they're abusing them verbally, even when they're subjecting them to whatever? Are kids as obedient as they once were? Were we obedient to our parents because we were fearful? Or were we obedient because they were doing something right? Yeah, absolutely. And that's abuse because the punishment should fit the situation. Like there's no reason for someone to use that level of physical force on a 3-year-old child. First of all, the kid is not even going to know why you did it or why you're doing that. Okay. And again, I said a lot of these women that use these extreme methods on their kids is not that they don't love the kids, it's because they're ill, they're mentally ill. So when you're saying these women, these Black women are horrible, many of them, remember, Black people have a lot of trauma. And I'm not making excuses for these women, but it is what it is. What kind of mental health facility? I've worked at a mental health place here in Canada where a woman could just call up and say, I feel like I'm losing it. And I just need to be away from this household because she has these children. She has a burden of raising these kids by herself. And she feels like she's going to snap. She calls someone and she says, I need to be out of here. And she secures her children with friends or family members. And she gets a chance to go and stay at this place for 1 week, and then she joins her children. How many women in Jamaica have that chance to say, whatever I'm going through right now, I can't be around my children. I need to separate myself from them. So there's a lot of issues that we have to look at. Yelling was something I have caught myself doing, and then I feel terrible because I want to break the cycle. Yeah, of course. But are you telling me that you just have to speak? Are Yeah, I don't have a son, but I think if I had a boy and a teenage boy at that, I think I'd be very aggressive, to be honest with you. And when I say aggressive, I'm not saying beat him or whatever, but I think a lot of Black women who've raised some very good sons I find Black women to be very aggressive in that way when they are single parents of boys. And in this time, I'm not going to let anyone tell me that when I see a Black woman draping up her son who is trying to go out of the way, that she's doing something bad. I'm not going to say that. No, she's a single mom and she's trying to make sure that her child doesn't go down the wrong path. We have to stop being hypocrites. Yeah, if I see her drape up a boy 17 years old, 18 years old, and I've seen that as a teacher, and I've had that experience where for example, Jamaica is worse when it comes to that. Like moms will come to school and the mom will drape that boy up. And this is why our boys are so feminine. Because, oh, go to the corner or can yell. Now, Baker, you got me started. Because sometimes they have to be yelled at, these older kids. The babies, I understand. And with the babies, you have to be firm. Firm. We can't pick up the same kind of what would I say? The same kind of behavior as other people who are rulers of this world and earth, who makes and breaks systems. We can't say, oh, I don't want to yell at my son, because I want to break the pattern. So you're gonna speak like a girl and you turn him into a sissy. I'm sorry. Hello, 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 Apple. Sorry if this is a bad thing to say, but you have this boy and you're afraid you don't want to hurt his feeling. You want to be, so gentle. Some boys need somebody kicking away their foot. If I saw my son getting involved in drugs and getting involved in bad company and whatever, and I had to use physical force on that boy, I was going to use it to save him. So not every mom that drape her son up or use aggression to cope with her boy getting out of hand. I'm sorry, I don't blame them. So some people say that as abuse. The abuse is when you're taking blunt objects and drawing blood from your children, throwing whatever object at your kid and hurting them. But sometimes boys need a little draping up. Now the girls are a little different because again, girls are very sensitive, and as they're getting into their puberty, sometimes there's struggle between girls and their moms. And you have to fight, aggression with girls is not going to work as well as it would with boys. And I have friends who have boys. You sent me off into this tirade now because I have friends who are single moms who are raising boys. And those boys, when they were in elementary school and early years in high school, started to go the wrong way. And those women had to stand up on their feet and had to be aggressive towards these boys. And all of these boys went through university and come back to say thanks to their mom. Because remember, that's not there. That man, that male energy that is required to really set the boy straight is not there. And so you need women that are more aggressive. You have to be aggressive. So there's a thin line. So we have to look and say, okay, we don't want to abuse our kids anymore. We're not supposed to condone that. We're not supposed to stand by as, even citizens and watch people abuse their children. But the truth of the matter is the same boy that you say, I'm not going to yell at, is the same boy that the cop is going to pull over and is going to let go 2 bullets in. The same boy who you refuse to be, aggressive with when you needed to be aggressive with, is going to find the police officer who has no problem showing aggression and more. So we need a balance. We need a balance, and we can't just cry that, oh, the husband is not here, or we have to stay in an abusive relationship with men because we don't want our kids to be in a broken home. Sometimes staying in relationships that's toxic only makes it worse for the family environment in any case. Yeah. I don't think there's any parent. I think any parent that tells me that they never yell at their kid or never get upset with their kid that way is a hypocrite. And I think that's what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of hypocrisy I'm seeing. A lot of parents who have been extremely violent or extremely aggressive with their own kids, and they're here judging other parents who, who are not really as aggressive as they were. I think we all could benefit from learning new parenting skills. But I think we can also benefit from not being too judgmental when you see a mom struggling in raising her children. And yes, I agree that Jamaica, the women tend to be a little bit too free with their girls. They're not protecting them as much. They're kind of subjecting them to all kinds of abuse. I'm not justifying it for those women. I'm just saying other women who had a difficult time raising their children, and now that they see other moms struggling, they're judging it when they were not different. Okay. Of course. Women, and this is another thing that women need to know too. A lot of times when we're no longer in relationship with our ex-partners, we say we don't need them. Yeah, you don't need them anymore, but that doesn't mean the kids don't need them. So as Black moms, we have to stop separating our children from their fathers if the fathers want to be active in their life and the fathers are not abusive in any way, or the fathers don't contribute to some negative vibration around the child. It takes, somebody say it takes a village to raise a child. It still does. It's just that you have to be very careful now with who you're trusting and who you include in this village, Apple, are you still here? And I'm asking you that, do you think that Black mothers are more aggressive than, in general, are more aggressive than other mothers? And do you think this aggression affects children in a negative way? Do you think that our approach towards raising our children just needs to change altogether? Or some kids actually need that firm, firm, strict. Being strict is not necessarily a great thing, because sometimes when you're being too strict, is because of your own fears. But being firm, where the kid knows that my mom is firm, but if I make a mistake, that same mom is going to, allow me to come and talk about the things that I've done, and she's willing to forgive me and we move on. There are moms where when the kids do things and they find out or whatever, they'll call all their friends. And this is one of the things where we lose trust with our kids too. When we tell all our friends their business, kids hate that, especially females. They don't like that at all. So some of these are underlying issues. It's not that the moms are more wicked than other moms, but these underlying issues that are not dealt with in family relationships, between mom and their sons. In general, are Black women more aggressive than other women? And if so, why? Anyway, I'm not going to go too long with this. I promised that I was going to come on and touch base with this topic and hear what you have to say. I'm going to leave by saying that, you know, I think Black women are getting a bad rap. I think those who are very abusive towards their kids, I don't think it's a majority. I think a lot of them that show extreme abuse towards the kids are individuals who have mental health problems, stress to the point where they really shouldn't be around the kids. They need help for themselves. And I'm also saying that when it comes to raising teenagers these days, there's a certain level of aggression that is necessary. If you're way too soft and too, I don't know, condoning of whatever, your kids become your friends. Because there was a time when I thought, oh, my kids are my friends. But there are times when you can't be friends with your children as you're raising them. You have to be an authority, and you still show love no matter what they do, no matter what you're punishing them for. They have to understand that you love them first. The old thing about hugging our kids and loving our kids and whatever. A lot of parents hug and love upon their kids and still lead them straight to hell because they don't discipline them. Anyway, that's it for now. These things I see at 42, some negative patterns I learned about parenting. I've taken classes to help me. Of course, it helps because sometimes you're doing these things and you're not even aware what you're doing. Sometimes in anger, you say things to the kids and you don't even know it upset them that way until years later they tell you, oh, you said this to me, it hurt my feelings. Just like your relationship with regular people, you could be having a conversation with someone and they say something to you, and you're very hurt, but you don't say anything to that person. That person would never know. Sorry. I was raised in a terrible home. My mother did not protect her children, drugs, drug abuse, neglect. I've experienced it all. Even when I knew it was wrong, she put up with anything for the help. Yeah, that is unfortunate. And how is your relationship with her now, Miss Candy? Do you have a relationship with your mom right now? I mean, that's the story of a lot of people. Do you hate her? Have you forgiven her? And have you learned from her? Have you made sure that you didn't do the same thing if you have kids to your own kids? And a lot of times too, these drugs, again, we talk about mental health issue. A lot of people think that people are mentally ill because they use drugs when it's the other way around. A lot of parents, a lot of people that are abusing drugs already have mental health problems. The drug just helps them to cope. And when people feel like they have no choice in life, they sometimes go to some extreme measures. Yep, they're most overwhelmed, overburdened. If you see what some women, some Black women are going through, some moms that are going through when you're on the outside looking in, it's very easy. Like I was saying to someone, when my kids were young, thank goodness I was in an environment, a society where if I couldn't afford certain things, I could just swallow my pride and reach out and ask for help. But someone asked me, would you steal? And I said, well, that's a hard question to answer because if my kids were hungry and I had nowhere to go and I had to steal food to feed them, I would. I would. So even though what I'm doing is with a good intention, it would still be wrong. So even though some moms have the best intention, their method of going about it is wrong. And so you can't ignore the good intention all the time. You have to find a way to say, okay, this is what they intended, this is what they ended up doing, and this is how it affected them and their kids. Miss Candy, I don't have a relationship with my biological mother. I just over the years tried to connect with her, but it just never really worked out. But I'm able, some of the things that she's done and said, I am able to look at it now and say, this is her history. This is her past. And when I look at her experience, it's different from my own. And so even though I might have judgment, I don't dwell on it to the point where I hate her or where I would, wish any harm on her. No. Wow. 23 years. And Ferguson, you haven't spoken to your mom in 23 years. Um, would it benefit you if you had some kind of closure? Are you having any latent resentment towards her? Because even though you might have a good relationship with your own kid if you have kids, but it seems if 20 years, 3 years passed and you haven't spoken to her, did you at least tell her how you were feeling about what you feel she's done to you? Did you close the door on that, or that still remains open? Sorry. Okay. Not just black women, black folks, black people. You have closure. Well, that's good. As long as you're not keeping it something inside of you, because you forget. Sometimes we say we forgive people, but we haven't truly forgiven them. Yeah, sometimes that's a case with me and my biological mother is not really interested in that healing that or even understanding the cycle that this whatever is happening with you not being with your kid, it's a cycle. I've seen with my own kids. I fight to be in a relationship with my children, and sometimes in trying to fight to be in that relationship with them, sometimes they'll say things to you and hurt you as much as you can hurt them. I mean, the younger one, at this point, she is with her mom and dad, and that's what my older kids didn't have. And so I value my relationship. I feel like it's a gift that I've given her to have her father in her life. And as much as getting married is a risk, I'm not going to allow other folks who feel that they have sacrificed their life for their children and that they're not going to get married because they want to protect their kids. I know how to protect my kid. And that didn't mean that I wouldn't have a life, that I would sacrifice my life to make it seem like I'm a good mom. I love my kids very much. One rule is I sit my daughters down and I tell them, if this happens to you or if you feel uncomfortable in this way, you tell me. I'm picking you. If you tell me something about my partner, and even if it's a lie, well, that's on you. Because if you tell me anything negative, I'm gone. So my kids already know that I love you most. I love you more. And so I'm trying to be with another person, to start a family with another person, but your priority. You kind of call the shots. So I still gave myself the chance to be with someone, to have a family, but at the same time, I let my kid know that whatever you're kind of the boss here. If you say you don't like this person or you're not comfortable with this person, then it's over, you know. But I'm feeling blessed that I had another child and that I gave another person the opportunity to prove to me that not all men are the same. And when the kids grow up and they're gone about their business, living their own lives, and you call them up on the phone trying to have conversation with them, many times they'll tell you, it's not my fault that you didn't have a next man. It's not my fault that you are so foolish not to get involved with someone else. I've heard that too. I've heard women who raise their boys by themselves saying, I don't want anybody around my kids. And hear those same kids turn around and tell their moms, it's not my fault, you're lonely and miserable. So you have to decide what is best for you. Okay, I don't have a relationship with my daughter and she doesn't want one with me. She doesn't want one with you right now until she see the importance of a mother. And I don't want to ask you to put your business out here to say why or what happened. But trust me, a lot of us moms, we go through that, especially when you raise your kids in North America, when you're saying to your girls, especially, you're saying, I want you to go down this road. I don't want you to make this mistake. I want to protect you from so and so. They sometimes see all that strictness or that firmness as you being the wicked one. So that's why again we come to the point where I say you can raise your children with the best of intention. You can love your kids and they grow up and they still hate you. So does that make you a bad person? If she doesn't have a relationship with you, as long as you let her know, Ferguson, that you love her and you keep the door open. Okay. I have had a tough time with my first child, raising her and, always trying to protect her from herself. And eventually you have to let go and let them live their own life, make their own mistakes. But sometimes when they make their own mistakes, they'll come back and say, it's your fault. You just have to let them know, I love you. And, if whatever I did you feel was not how you would want it to be, when you have your own kids, then you decide if I was a good or a bad mom for trying to do the best thing for you. But at the same time, I'm not always right. We're not always right as parents. Bottom line is, don't be too quick to judge the other woman, because a lot of these stories that come out, some of these men that are saying, oh, my mom is so wicked, they don't have a father. And you don't see them going out and saying their father is wicked for abandoning them. They're not. And sometimes the men are as aggressive. Sometimes the men have violated them physically. And I find that people tend to be more forgiving of their dads, are more forgiving of men than they are of the women. Anyway, guys, it's now at 57 minutes. I didn't think I was going to stay so long. Thank you for joining me, Miss Baker, Miss Candy, Miss Ferguson, Apple. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a blessed day. Have a blessed Mother's Day. And I don't really celebrate Mother's Day, but I appreciate the fact that women are recognized on this day, because the role we play as mothers, not just to our kids, but to other people's children, is something that shouldn't be ignored. It's a tough job and oftentimes a thankless one. A lot of women sacrifice so much for their kids and they don't get a thank you. But I also believe that if you see a woman with 10 children, the 10 children will not abandon her. The 10 children will not hate her. This is why, you try to love all your kids. And this is the next thing too, before I go. People are saying, moms have favorite and they treat this one child, with favoritism. That's another topic for another day. But the truth is, I don't think you can love all your kids the same way. You can't love all your kids the same way. You like them. You love all your kids as a mom, as a it's a biological thing, that connection. But you're going to love the kids for different reasons. Like this one child, you can talk to this child. This child is more obedient, doesn't give you more stress. You love that kid for not, giving you unnecessary problems. The one that gets into a lot of trouble, sometimes you pay more attention to that one, not because you necessarily love this one more, but because you spend energy trying to send this one the right way, to raise the one, this child, and this kid takes more of your time, whereas another child doesn't need all your attention, but you still have to make them not feel like, okay, you don't care. But in general, we're human beings and we love people for different reasons. I love all my kids and I love them as a mom, but I'm close to them for different reasons. I have a different connection with all of them, separately. Like, this one is someone I would go if I had a secret and would tell. This one, if I wanted an opinion or make a decision on a particular thing, I would tell. And of course, my younger one, she's a bit of both, but she's younger. I'm an older mom now, and I find that I was more strict with the older ones than I am with this girl. It's not like I'm not vigilant, but again, as you get older too, you get a little bit more laxed. Anyway, thank you all for joining me. Stay blessed. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful night.